Now let's go back to August 1995, and of course, there were lots of local rugby league union and also lots of local AFL finals underway.
The Falcons went from 3rd to 5th on the ladder after their away defeat at the hands of Brisbane last weekend. Tomorrow night will be just as demanding, but a challenge that must be overcome in the race for the top 4 and home court advantage during the playoffs.
We feel that we should be able to win our home games against anybody in the league. The Magic are the top, so it's a great challenge and a great opportunity for us.
The Magic has an impressive 8-1 record on the road, which will also be tested against Illawarra tonight. Falcons captain Butch Hayes is not concerned with the deliberate attention Reggie Smith received last week, which was authorised by Bullets coach Bruce Palmer.
I wouldn't be surprised if Sincere and Brian Gorgon are good mates. I wouldn't be surprised if the Magic tried that this weekend. But it's no worries.
Souths are unchanged tonight, while the Marlins have moved captain Mark Jones from fullback to 5'8" for the sudden death encounter. Not so tomorrow, when Curry and West resume their rivalry in the major semi-final at Maitland. David Smith returns from injury for Curry. The Bulldogs wary of the Rosellas, particularly their in-form pivot.
West are obviously the team to beat. They've got some very good players. Steve Story, I rate as probably the best player in the competition.
In rugby union, the Wildfires take on West Harbour at the home of New South Wales Rugby Union, Waratah Stadium at Concord tomorrow. Locally, the competition resumes tomorrow after a week's break, with just 3 more rounds before the semis. In soccer, Adamstown play their last game in the State Super League on Sunday, while the second last round in the local competition gets underway tomorrow. And in touch football regional finals, Glendale High School defeated Cardiff 6-5 in extra time in the boys, while extra time was also needed in the girls, Foster downing Chatham 4-3. The Westfield Hopetown Relay started from Sydney's west yesterday and wound its way along the coast to Wyong. Raising money for Wyong's Hopetown School, the event was over 12 10-kilometre stages, many athletes using the race as preparation for the city to surf. In the Lake Macquarie Classic, about 200 riders put themselves to the test over the weekend. But 2 riders grabbed most attention, local Danny Ham and Sydney's John DeStefano. One of the up-and-comers in super and motocross, Ham took out the senior 125 class, with DeStefano second. The result was reversed in the 250s, with national representative Craig Anderson crashing while leading. And in State League softball, the Castle Lakers Strikers beat Tamworth 7-3 over the weekend. They lost both other games, but midway through the season are equal second in Division B. Having beaten Newcastle earlier in the season, Penrith began well against the Wildfires, who, when they did penetrate the visitors' line, failed to capitalise. It wasn't until the 30th minute that Penrith posted first points in the match, then went further ahead when the Wildfires' defence was caught napping on the blind side. Three Roebuck penalties reduced the margin to 1, and when a forward rush started by Stuart Jones left Newcastle with a scrum a metre from the line, back rower John Clifton claimed the 5-pointer and the lead. 2 Roebuck penalty goals increased the margin to 12 before late tries to Chris Williams and Peter Fallon made the final score 36-10. A massive red, white and blue swamped number 1 sports ground after yesterday's 24-4 triumph, all keen to savour the hat-trick. Hours later, the celebrations intensified as the party moved west to Curry, the Coalfields community overwhelmed with their team's success.
No doubt this is our best. This is the best feeling we've had, the best feeling all our supporters have had in the town. It's just great.
The The treble made possible in many people's minds by Linane, who was named man of the match yesterday.
Can't play, can he? He's the best English come to Curry.
Like Williams and Linane, most had been part of the two previous celebrations, but some were enjoying the festivities for the first time. Gavin Cook was with beaten grand finalist Toronto last year on the receiving end of the Bulldog bite, before joining Curry this season.
I'm happy I made the switch. And you can't find any better supporters in Australia than Curry.
And one of their favourites last night was 18-year-old Mark Hughes, who recovered from a battering in the opening minutes to score 2 tries.
It's amazing. I was in the crowd last year, just a young kid watching it, and all of a sudden I'm thrown in there. And now it's done me kind of good. I just want more of it, just like the rest of them.
After winning a hat-trick of titles, the Bulldogs are now chasing 4, which would be a record in the Newcastle competition.
Town's already talking about 4, but it's a lot of pressure. But there was a lot of pressure on this year to achieve 3, so we definitely won't be going out there next year to run 2nd, 3rd, 4th or 5th, so who knows.
A replay of the grand final on NBN tonight from 10:45.
Butts was put through his paces this morning, but the ankle injured in last week's game against the Reds didn't hold up, and the big forward will be out for the clash with the Sharks.
Johnny Butterfield at the moment's not right. He's not passed his fitness test.
Butterfield has been one of the form forwards, and his no-nonsense play will be missed. Better news on Andrew Johns. There are no problems with his shoulder, and he'll be on the paddock. Injury has tormented both Johns' boys, damaging a crucial combination for the night's success.
It's been hard to sort of click into gear. We've had a bit of trouble sort of gelling together after injuries, to both of us.
Earlier, the Knights were being swamped by fans at Stockland Mall as part of a 2HD breakfast show. The players gearing up for the most important game of the season to decide which team makes the top 4. And wasn't the Chief chuffed? Still on league, and TV crews have been working all day to organise the set for the footy show at the Newcastle Workers Club. 1,200 tickets were distributed for the show within an hour. Catch the program on NBN at 9:35 tonight.
It's a massive battle, and of course it certainly was in local rugby. And of course it certainly had to become. And that of course is what became.
There are just 3 games to the playoffs, but the Falcons were releasing some of the stress today with their own special version of cricket. Far more serious is Tony Jensen's pinched nerve in his back after a mishap at training earlier this week. But he will play, although he may spend more time on the bench than usual. For Jensen, it's also another milestone. He and Matty Alexander will both notch up 50 games for the club.
We're still a couple 100,000 behind Michael Johnson, but, it's important because it shows that we've been around here and we're very happy here. So all those little milestones help.
The Adelaide 36ers will be tough. They are pushing to keep a top 8 spot and have won the last 4 on the trot. The Falcons need to win to maintain a top 4 finish of the regular season. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
It's become a huge one for local netball, and of course it certainly was right up in Newcastle, and it's all part of the local competition finals.
As Curry strives for the treble, these were the messages for West today from the town's butcher and baker, while the confident candlestick maker was already selling shirts heralding the hat-trick.
Not a for sure thing, but I'd say they've got a very good chance, yeah.
The Shirts were turning over more cash on the town's corner than a bookie on Melbourne Cup Day. You see, this town isn't expecting any rough rides come Sunday, when the Bulldogs' scowl will turn to a smile. While the Curry streets were decked out in red, white and blue, the most amazing scenes were down here at the local school, where you could have been forgiven for thinking that the Bulldogs had already won the premiership. With the Curry Club song providing the backdrop, the school had one of its more unusual recess breaks, with the players stealing the show. Most had dressed for the occasion, some had written poems for the team, while others chose song to display their feelings. Back at West, things were more subdued, but just as confident about their chances come Sunday. 7 players in Sunday's starting side for West were part of the 93 grand final loss to Curry, the start of recent rivalry and a memory which still lingers.
Since then, playing each other, it's always brought out the best in both teams, and really this grand final was pretty much predicted since the start of the season.
To get there, both sides have met 3 times, West winning on 2 occasions, each producing plenty of intensity, which is likely to flare again on Sunday.
I think whichever side can cop that, maybe might come out on top.
West certainly did in the major semi, which was the minor premier's only game in a month, which their coach believes won't detract from their performance.
There's obviously a lot of opinion about that. I don't know, Sunday will tell.
In contrast, Curry has had yet another arduous path to the grand final, but as they've shown in the past, they thrive on being the underdog.
Our 13 guys, probably all of them are carrying a niggling injury, but grand final will bring the best out in them and hopefully they'll do the job.
Like most premiership deciders, the individual confrontations will also be a highlight, none better than that between the Rakes, Tony Hutton and Phil Williams.
Yeah, he played very well in the major semi, and he played very well with Harker too, so we've got to watch him, and we just got to watch the whole forward pack.
In local grades, Lakes take on Maitland in reserves, and in thirds, West play the Seagulls. The first of 5 heats started this afternoon, the titles also incorporating the 5th round of the State Off-Road Championships. 100 drivers started the race, with Coola's Neil Morrison taking out the opening event, while Singleton's Graham Baxter heads the four-wheel drive division into tonight's second stage. Meantime, the Falcons take on the Magic in Melbourne tonight, chasing their first away victory against the club since 1985. The Falcons upset them in Newcastle just 2 weeks ago and are coming off a comfortable win against Hobart last night. The Falcons beat the Devils by 8 points. Tony Jensen still one shy of the 1,000 tally in the NBL. Reggie Smith was again outstanding in the scrappy affair, hitting 16 points and grabbing 18 rebounds. After defeating Hobart on Friday night, the Falcons led for the duration against the Magic and had 7 players all scoring 10 points or more, including Tony Jensen, who brought up his 1,000 in the NBL. Newcastle hit a remarkable 47% of its three-point shots, bettering their effort from the field. Reggie Smith had an absorbing battle with John Dorge, grabbing another 14 rebounds and 22 points. The 14-8 win-loss record has the Falcons in a 4-way tie for second. A playoff place assured, they'll now look to maintain a top 4 spot with home games against Hobart, Adelaide and Geelong.
A weekend of high spirits and 2 young lives ended in this small shattered sedan just before midnight. The car belonged to Terry Chipperfield, Maitland's reserve-grade fullback, a club captain with more than 100 games to his credit. Terry would have turned 25 today. A passenger in the car, 19-year-old Daniel Sharnock from Branxton, was also killed when it slammed into a power pole, splintering the timber and bringing down lines.
To think that they were on a high all day yesterday. They almost won the grand final. We were proud of them even though they didn't win it. They fought right till the end, and Lakes only got on top in the last few minutes. And we had a few celebrations back at the club with some food and a few drinks, and everyone was quite happy, and off they went home. And then this happened.
Daniel Sharnock had only come into the team this season after good performances in the under-18s. He'd also been picked in the Newcastle Knights Jersey flag side and played well in yesterday's reserve grade final against Lakes in Newcastle. Some of the team had gone on last night to a party at Terry Chipperfield's house, and it was just a few doors up the road that the fatal crash happened.
We feel so sorry for the parents and the families, but also for the players because they were like one big happy family. And for us too, because we absolutely love them. I've been with them for 4 years, watched them grow up, and well, just as if I've lost one of my own, or two of my own boys.
Fresh from his civic reception yesterday, Singleton's Wallaby Steve Marrick was one of several interested onlookers at today's game. Down 7-0, the Waratahs climbed their way back into the match with an incisive run from 5'8" David Toomey, which was finished off by Doug Pickering for a 1-point lead at the break. The Waratahs maintained the advantage in the second term to set up a meeting with Singleton next week. In hockey, University continued its impressive march towards the Newcastle semi-finals this afternoon. The Premiers thrash Maitland 8-1, with West taking on North tomorrow. To netball, and Gazza's Sports will play Brewers in the Newcastle Grand Final next weekend. Gazza's won this afternoon's final, beating Charlestown 34-24. And in surfing, the regional schools final got underway in small but clean conditions at South Newcastle. With most heats completed today, the finals will be staged tomorrow. Ahead 2-1, Hamilton's Harry James received a yellow card and was then sent off after a heated exchange with the referee. Edgeworth immediately took advantage, producing the equaliser through Andrew Tonks, who was making his return to first grade. The Eagles scored 2 quick goals early in the second term to secure the match and a hat-trick to Tonks. In rugby union, Waratah Mayfield has eliminated Wanderers from the competition with a 27-17 victory this afternoon. The only try of the second term was scored by halfback Matthew Carney after some sustained pressure. The boot of Chad Watt also proved decisive, May East repelling everything to book a meeting with Merewether Carlton next weekend. In hockey, West, Stephen Deering has had a far from memorable 300th match for the club. North downed West 8-1, Andrew Cox scoring 5 goals. A resident of Raymond Terrace, Primer was runner-up to defending champion Chris Watson, enabling him to take the title from Matthew Whalen and Ken Bisley. Bisley also won the 250s, with Curry's Jamie Stover finishing third after taking out the 125s. From 2 wheels to 4, and Coolers Neil Morrison has taken out the State Long Course Off-Road Championship at Milbrodale near Singleton. Locals also featured in the Mountain Classic, with Peter and Lorraine Avery, Graham and Kathy Smith, as well as Graham and David Baxter, all successful in their classes. In cricket, the Newcastle's Halzat Women's B indoor side won its first state championship yesterday. The club's Masters team took out its 5th title, while Maitland's Masters were also successful in Division 2. And in rugby union, the Wildfires Colts' inspiring run came to an end in Sydney yesterday, knocked out of the semis by the Galloping Greens. Ryan is now based in Sydney but frequently returns to train in Newcastle as she did this afternoon. The 24-year-old will face different conditions in France, where she hopes to defend the title she won in South Africa 2 years ago. The first woman to hold the World Cup and Championship at the same time, she'll be one of 7 Australians taking part. In netball, Charlestown will look to continue their run in Division 2 of the State Netball League tomorrow night. The Mavericks take on Penrith in the final in Sydney, the winner to meet Borkham Hills in the title decider. In hockey, West captain coach Stephen Deering plays his 300th game in the Newcastle competition on Sunday. Deering made his debut 18 seasons ago against North, West's opponents this weekend. Semi-finals kick off in the local rugby union premiership tomorrow. Waratah and Merewether Carlton playing for the right to meet Singleton, while it's sudden death on Sunday between Wanderers and Mayfield East. And it's quarter-final time in soccer, with 2 matches tomorrow, while Highfields take on Lakes and Edgeworth confront Hamilton on Sunday. Like Newcastle, the Suns have been one of the big improvers in the National Basketball League this season. One of their 7 wins included a 94-86 home victory over the Falcons, a feat they will be keen to repeat, particularly Derek Rucker, who was averaging 31 points a game, the second highest in the competition.
Derek will be coming back to look for a big game here in Newcastle. Still got a lot of friends down here, and he's a very talented player, so we're going to have to do the job on him defensively, and Tyson is doing a great job for them inside as well.
The league's leading rebounder, Reggie Smith, will have the job of marking Tyson, who is second on the boards. Throw in the Hayes, Rucker, Jensen, Dickinson individual contests, and things should be tight.
And so it'll be a good matchup, and I think the Knights are going to win as well. So it'll be a great weekend for Newcastle.
Mark Glanville was sporting a face only a daughter could love this morning after a fierce head clash brought his season to a shuddering halt on Friday night.
Yeah, I collided heads with Les Davidson, probably not the best head to come in contact with, but yeah, he sort of launched his head into my cheekbone. I knew I'd done something fairly ordinary.
Ordinary enough to have 2 small plates and 6 screws inserted into his face, but true to character, he still maintained his sense of humour.
I'll be the Elephant Man for a few more days, I'd say.
Tony Butterfield, who's been struggling with an ankle complaint, is likely to return to take Glanville's place, while several Knights are struggling with injury but are expected to play. Glanville confident Newcastle can break their losing streak on Friday night.
The good thing is we'll be playing North, so haven't been going that well. And admittedly it's another Friday night game, but I think we can overcome that, and I'm sure that the boys can do well.
Meantime, the Gold Coast Seagulls are meeting with the ARL in a bid to unravel their future, and yesterday expressed their disappointment at the current situation.
It's very disappointing when you know a fellow club just up the road, the Crushers, have reportedly got 2.5 million. We've got nothing, and they're down here trying to get our players. I mean, you know, we're not dills. We're going to fight, and we're going to fight all the way.
There were smiles of relief in the Knights' dressing room last night, with the coach and players cautiously optimistic.
I believe with that type of football we can beat anybody, but you know we've got to learn not to give too much away.
The difference was their attitude was different. You know, in the last 5 or 6 weeks we'd be getting down and do drastic things, but we kept our composure and just kept going on, so we eventually cracked them.
Harrigan, along with fellow front rower Tony Butterfield, were a driving force in the 20-10 victory. Butts' non-stop performance rewarded with the try that sealed the match in the 76th minute after the Knights had 5 others disallowed.
It was pleasing to see us creating opportunities for ourselves, regardless of whether or not they were converted into points. We were still laying opportunities on, and that last one was a bonus. Yeah, I was pleased to get the hand to it.
He was one of 5 who required painkillers to take the field, as was Andrew Johns, with brother Matthew the only real concern after the morale-boosting win.
That's a bit of a fairy, you know. We always have to look after him on the field, but no, he's got a couple of zippers in the lip. He got about 9 stitches and 10 stitches. It'll be 12 tomorrow and 14 by the weekend. And like he's getting married next January, I don't think no one would have him. But
the early fireworks didn't eventuate, but there was still plenty of intensity, with nerves getting the better of even the most experienced. It was left to another Bulldogs veteran playing possibly his last game to post first points. A minor altercation allowed Williams to extend the margin by 2, while the guile of Lenane was proving decisive for Curry. They appeared to go further ahead in the 17th minute, only to have referee Williams disallow the try. But there was no doubt 8 minutes later on the opposite flank, Lenane and Williams combining for Hughes. Wests appeared to be having one of those days, while Brian Robb kicked the Premiers to a 12-0 lead at the break. West failed to take advantage of the stiff breeze, and with the scent of a hat-trick of titles, Curry's quest gained momentum with tries in the 52nd and 63rd minutes, the latter securing a 22-0 advantage and the championship. The Rosellas scored a belated try through Jamie Greenaway, but the Bulldogs couldn't be denied, joining Wests, Maitland and Lakes as the only other clubs to capture 3 successive titles. In lower grades, Lakes and West were victorious. In Group 21, Scone beat Singleton, while Wyong defeated the entrants in the major semi on the Central Coast. Jackson spent this season with the Rabbitohs, but is expected to sign a 3-year contract with the Knights in the next few days. Both parties coming to an amicable arrangement.
Well, we've come to a compromise. He's actually agreed to drop a considerable amount of his contract money.
Meantime, the Knights have made 2 changes from Friday's loss to the Reds. Darren Tracy returns to the starting side, with Tony Butterfield expected to undergo a fitness test later in the week on an injured ankle. In the backs, Robbie Ross returns to fullback after his 2-week suspension. Teenager Owen Craigie dropping back to reserves after earning praise from the coach.
I wouldn't have liked to thrust Owen into a task like he would have against Cronulla with his limited experience.
The season of Ashley Gordon may have come to a premature end. Under competition rules, he has not played enough second-grade games to qualify for the reserve semi-finals campaign. The Knights have not given up hope, naming him on the second-grade bench, and are tonight seeking a clarification from the league. While it hasn't been the best of seasons for the Rosebud senior teams, the under-21s have a chance to salvage some pride for the club in the decider against Bonnyrigg. Breakers coach John Cosmina will be one of many interested spectators as his club Warringah is engaged in the first-grade grand final. Locally, Edgeworth take on Western, while Highfields play Walls End in the semi-finals. It's also grand finals weekend for the Central Coast, with the Coasties creating club history and qualifying for 3 grand finals in the state first division. Brewers will be looking for a hat-trick of titles in the Newcastle Netball Grand Final tomorrow when they take on Gazzers Sports. It's a replay of last year's premiership decider, but Gazzers have won 2 of their 3 meetings this season. In rugby union, Newcastle semi-finals continue tomorrow, with Singleton taking on the Waratahs for a position in the grand final, while Merewether Carlton play May East on Sunday. And it's the final round of the Newcastle Hockey Premiership. The makeup of the semi-finals still undecided. Uni has secured top spot, with South, West, Maitland and North all vying for the remaining positions. The New South Wales team of 6 includes 4 locals: Adele Bannerman, Cherie Burns, Dale Linnetson and Julie Swanson, with Joanna Wally a reserve. September will be a busy month as they tackle the Australian individual, foursomes and interstate series at the Newcastle and Steelworks golf clubs.
4 of us know the course pretty well, and then we've been having the state squads up here, so the other 2 have got to know the course, and then being in our hometown we'll feel a bit more comfortable.
Yes, we will have a bit of an advantage, like coming from Newcastle and being able to play here a fair bit, so hopefully it'll come through.
Both 19 and playing off 3, Bannerman and Burns have represented New South Wales before, while teammate and Newcastle and Hunter champion Julie Swanson from Raymond Terrace will make her debut.
I really don't know what to expect, but I'm hoping for the best.
Linnetson from Cessnock is no stranger when it comes to mixing with the better players of golf, as her job revolves around unearthing tomorrow's champions.
I'm working full-time at the moment as the administration manager for the Jack Newton Golf Academy, which is a commercial venture established at Riverside Oaks to try and assist aspiring young amateurs to become professional golfers.
With coach Malcolm Reilly rating Barnes just a 10% chance of playing due to an ankle injury, Grogan gets another opportunity in the top grade at the most important time of the year. His performance in reserve grade and bigger match experience getting him the nod over teenager Owen Craigie.
on Grogan's current form and maybe Owen's inexperience at this level in an important game might be crucial.
The rest of the back line remains intact with just the one change in the pack. Tony Butterfield comes in to replace the injured Mark Landville with Darren Tracy moving back to lock. The Bears also have their fitness concerns, which the Knights are playing down. They're expecting nothing less than a committed North Sydney, whoever takes the field.
I just can't allow any complacency to creep in because I really don't want this season to finish on Friday.
Meantime, the Knights have confirmed the signing of Test rate Lee Jackson and several other players, including another hooker and Newcastle West star Tony Hutton, to a 2-year deal. After an illustrious career with Canterbury, the Knights and Halifax, one of this region's most popular servants of the game has decided that Sunday will be his last match. At 31, Hagan has not missed a game through a football-related injury since 1984 and feels the time is right to make a graceful exit.
I've been very fortunate over a lot of years. However, I do have a game to play next Friday against some old-timers at Parramatta Stadium, so I've still got that one game up my sleeve. Probably go from the oldest player on Sunday to the youngest player next week, so certainly a change of fortune.
Deservedly, the chances are he will go out a winner. Last year's beaten grand finalists in first grade Wyong have qualified for all 4 grand finals at Graham Park, Gosford. Wyong will play the entrance in the first grade match and will start favourites after winning their most recent encounter.
The entrance are a very good side. I think we just got them in the major semi 22-14. They did have a win over Wyong in the second round, so and they've got some very good players, so it'll be a very tough game on Sunday.
Despite being wet, it was just incredible for the Newcastle Netball Grand Final to go underway. And of course, with the new champions, crowned premiers. And also, a lot of points had to be quickly given.
Yesterday's gruelling victory to Manly over the Sharks was just what the Knights were hoping for.
I'd prefer maybe to come up against a Cronulla side that's been knocked out of it.
Newcastle take on Cronulla this Saturday, with Grogan likely to be named in the centres again tomorrow. On Friday, he played in first grade's win over Norths, then was instrumental in reserves' victory yesterday, as was Bill Peden. He's become the Knights' most versatile player in both grades.
Mate, I'm enjoying it. First grade's obviously the place where everyone wants to play, but to get a chance to play in reserve grade semi-finals, that's a great honour as well.
Oh, he's a great player, Billy Peden. He's a bit above this level, I'm afraid. He's a first grade footballer, but we're very happy to have him and use him off the bench.
Super League's logo was revealed across the rugby league world this morning, the Mariners playing their part in Newcastle. Pending the outcome of a court battle, the 22-round competition will kick off in March next year, with Brisbane the Mariners' first hurdle. Coach Graham Murray satisfied with recruitment so far.
Yeah, we haven't finished, but, I couldn't be happy. If I went through a first 13 team now, I couldn't be happy with the blokes we got.
The showground will be a likely venue for the Mariners, with News Limited now the controlling shareholder in the Hunter franchise.
They'll hold so for a few years, I imagine, till the thing settles down. But yes, they're running with the 60%.
Meantime, Sydney's Shane Rose has taken out the New South Wales Quatters Championships at Lochinvar. He proved too strong in the 3 one-day event disciplines, with Branxton's Christine McLeod winning the novice class. And in soccer, the Central Coast has won the State First Division Grand Final with a 4-2 victory over Belmore.
It's hits like this that have made the real difference for the Sharks this season, a group of forwards who hunt in a pack. For the Knights, tough men, it's a point that's not lost.
They're a good work rate pack. They go forward well. They deal with honest things well.
All Marquette is made in the same mould. His form this year has been white hot, each week coming up with the big tackles and hit-ups, upstaging some of the more fancied name players.
I just prefer to stay quiet and out of the limelight.
The Knights say they have 3 games to go now. For Brett Grogan, who has made the team at Nathan Barnes' expense, it's a big chance at the big time.
I'm just looking forward to a good defensive game, and if I get some clear space, I'll take it.
Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Western last won a first-grade grand final in 1990. And while they'll start favourites on Sunday, there's one overwhelming statistic against them.
We've played Wallsend twice this year and we haven't beat them yet, so, we've got something to prove there.
As do Australia's oldest soccer club, Wallsend, which has not won the title since 1965. They stunned Highfields last week, and while some believe that was their grand final, the coach says the pressure's off.
We think we've had a great year. It's our first year in First Division. To make the First Division grand final in the first year has been tremendous for us.
Highfields coach Joe Senkowski believes Western should win the match, but after last weekend's shock loss hasn't written off Wallsend.
And if ever there was no meaning to the word favourites from last Sunday's game, I'll back Wallsend by about 3 goals.
The meaning of such a victory, if it eventuates, not lost on Hartley.
A re-evaluation of my contract.
Before training this morning, O'Davis hadn't been able to run since aggravating the old injury on Wednesday.
I cracked my spine when I was a young fella, and a disc in my spine, and it just flared up over the last couple of days. And
although tentative, O'Davis rates himself an 80% chance of playing, but a final decision isn't expected till later tonight, with teenager Owen Craigie likely to be on standby.
I don't want to sort of preempt the situation just yet, but I've got some options in the back of my mind.
O'Davis's wing partner Tony Herman has also been unable to train most of the week with a groin strain and hand injury, which will require painkilling injections before kick-off.
I'll be getting another needle tomorrow, and I shouldn't be any trouble running, I don't think. And just my hand probably too be a needle in there as well, so...
Front rower Tony Butterfield sat out most of today's training after damaging his ankle early in the session, but is expected to play. The Knights are determined to avenge their controversial loss in the last round of the competition, in which winger Matt Rogers crossed 4 times.
I'd like to see one of us get 4 tries this time, Robbie or myself or Jimmy or someone. It'd be nice, actually.
The Knights were farewelled by several loyal fans from Marathon Stadium this afternoon. Centrebet quoting them a 7-4 chance, while Cronulla is favoured at 5-2 on. Nelson Bay was attempting to repeat last year's performance when they came from 4th position to win the flag, but they were in trouble early, with City racing to a comfortable advantage and was ahead by 4 goals at half-time. They maintained the momentum in the second term and will play Warners Bay in next Saturday's grand final. In bowls, Windale Gateshead's Russell Hill has taken out the Graders Champion of Champions singles tournament. Hill defeated Charlestown's John Roberts in the final, scoring a 4 on the final end to come from 2 shots down to win 32-30. And in baseball, University has taken out the Newcastle Grand Final with a thrilling 1-run win over Belmont. All square going into the 9th inning, University produced one last run for a 10-9 upset victory over last year's champions. Ahead 6-0, Giant Lock and Newcastle Colts Rugby Union representative Jared Heaney showed tremendous speed and strength to score his second, putting Lambton 10-0 ahead. With some solid hits, defence was quickly turned into attack, winger Troy McCauley extending the lead from close range. But it was Heaney's third that gave Lambton an unbeatable 22-0 lead at the break and would have impressed local talent scouts. 2 tries from Drew Rolston assisted the visitors' cause, but quick thinking from Lambton's Shane Watton again stretched the margin. The South Coasters posted 2 further tries before winger Mark Horan produced another 4-pointer for Lambton to progress to the semis, where they'll confront Armidale's Duval High School. Arms is unavailable for the first match of the season against the Northwest on Saturday week. Former Shield player Steve Story will lead the side in his absence, which includes 2 new faces. Matthew Wagstaff will make his debut, while Stockton all-rounder John Allison becomes a dual Newcastle rep, having turned out for the all-conquering rugby league team this season. Peter March and Dave Rickson were also unavailable for the season opener. In rugby union, Singleton has honoured its retiring Wallaby halfback Steve Merrick with a civic reception. Merrick played 2 tests against the All Blacks this season, but later announced he was standing down from the representative ranks. Singleton man Neil McNamara expressing the feelings of most.
Because he showed that in at least one young man's life, the pursuit of money is not the all-end, the all or the end of his existence. It was just a nice handy sideline, I might add, that's even.
And in surfing, the Hunter Institute's Taj Burrows has completed an outstanding 7 days, winning the regional schools final yesterday after taking out the state juniors last week. Nelson Bay's Luke Bartlett won the 17s boys, while Merriweather's Travis Lynch took out the 13s.
The Bears were the walking wounded after their draw with Gold Coast. Larson, Hearn, Hall, Florimo and Fairley thought to be out, but the Knights are expecting nearly all of them to be fit.
It's only definitely Fairley's out, and from what we can gather, everyone else is in, so he's a big loss, but not getting too carried away with the losses. I think that one bloke won't make too much difference for him.
Paul Harrigan's form is turning around when needed. His hit-ups in the Cronulla loss a sign he is looking to lead from the front.
As far as being the forwards are concerned, we know that if we do our job properly or do a little bit better than we have been, the chances of winning are much increased.
Tony Butterfield was running with the team this afternoon. He'll be needed to control the Bears down the middle of the paddock. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
The 36ers got away by 10 in the opening stages. The margin would have been greater but for Butch Hayes. He and Tony Jensen then sparked a major turnaround as a 31-7 run gave the Falcons a 53-49 halftime lead. The tide turned again in the third quarter as the likes of Jojo English began to take control for Adelaide. He finished with 19 and Robert Rose 16, while Jensen was left nursing a wobbly front tooth after an accidental run-in with Kruger. The Falcons 15-9 for the season and slipping from second on the table. A life member of the ASF, Dave Williams, has been involved with the local federation for 18 years and its chairman for the past 13. Last night, the tributes flowed, as they did for the Codes Player of the Year.
The winner of the NBN Television Player of the Year is Danny Burke from Sesmont City Soccer. I'm going to accept the award on his behalf.
He'd been a highly talented junior who probably lost his way a little bit, and we offered him a chance to play in the National League, and he grabbed it with both hands, and he was a tremendous asset to the Northern Federation's team during the summer.
West Wallsend's Glenn Moore was named Rookie of the Year, while Highfield's Joe Senkowski was honoured with the Coach's Award.
I accepted the challenge and the position to take on, a position with the Newcastle Breakers, mainly because I badly wanted to see the club go ahead, and I thought I could play a role in that challenge.
Meantime, the semi-finals of the Bill Turner Cup start tonight at Spears Point, with local hopes resting with Lambton High.
Lambton High and the Blue came out firing last night, just 2 minutes in, and Chris Tancheski put one in the back of the net. 1-0 and the locals were fighting for a final spot, but Yeppoon from Queensland came back in the 7th minute and then turned up the heat with a carbon copy soon after. But Lambton wouldn't say die. Murray Cooper hit the equaliser to tie it up at 2-2 at half-time. The Queenslanders, however, seemed more determined in the second half, scoring a flurry of goals to move on to tonight's final with a 4-2 win. Yeppoon's opponent will be Sydney's Westfield Sports High after they thrashed Holy Spirit College 5-0.
Up next, we're going to September 1995, where the Knights reserve grade win their first grand final.
Time for a Pentium 2 processor? Intel is giving you the chance to win a Pentium 2 processor-based PC from Gateway. Visit this website to enter. We can make them all and get the because the Herald is the best way to start your day.
There are sports, and there are extreme sports. Just like there are compact four-wheel drives, and as